So the Nighthawk has developed a annoying off-idle running issue slash idle issue. I think it's developed as being caused probably by a clogged pilot jet. Doing some informal testing at idle. This header right here is the number 2 cylinder. That isn't really getting that hot. So it's clear that that cylinder at idle and slightly off idle is not getting any fuel, or not getting very much fuel. It'll kick back instead of kick in at higher throttle settings, higher RPMs. So I think it's just that pilot jet. I tried running some seafoam into the tank, but that doesn't seem to have done anything as of yet. One of the things that I do want to do is do a vacuum sync, because I haven't done that in a while. I just want to make sure the throttle plates and everything are in line. Probably will be fine, but it's a good thing to check every once in a while. So I'm going to use these gauges and hook those up. But first, I have to deal with another annoying problem, which are these cap things which go on the carburetors. These like rubber things that, because they're old and rubber, tend to dry rot. And you can tell, the camera doesn't really want to focus this close, but there's another one. Whoops, dropped it. They go down here into these little pipes in the carburetor. You can see the pipe sticking out right there, and this thing just slips over it. But I have no idea where to locate those. They probably don't make those anymore. Dropped it again. You can just see the top is actually cracked now. Ooh. So I sort of made my own using some goop and a piece of plastic tubing. Hold up to the light, you can see where the goop has sealed the end of the plastic tubing. Already made one that was on there, and I'm going to put these 3 on now before I do the vacuum sync. Get another look at them there. They're kind of funny looking, but they do the job. I'll have to kind of flare the ends out in order to fit over the tubes there. I think those little tubes on the carburetors are for some sort of California emissions control system, which was removed. That's always complicated and annoying to deal with, but the caps may not have been OEM, I have no idea, but I'll put those on and then I'll get the gauges hooked up. Okay, so now the little carburetor caps are put on, and I'm going to have to go ahead and hook up the vacuum gauges. So they just go in, see the screw right here. You have to put it on the high vacuum side of the intake manifold. So that's on the engine side of the throttle plate. Throttle plate's right about in here-ish. So they have these screws. There are 3 screws on this particular bike. Pretty much all the Japanese bikes, I think, with the 4 carb racks are the same or similar setup. This here is the vacuum line that goes to the petcock for the vacuum shutoff. So that pops off, and then I'm going to have to take a wrench to unscrew that. And then I'll show you in a second how those little vacuum probe thingies go in. So these are the, I guess you'd say, vacuum taps, vacuum probes. Yeah, something like that. And they actually screw into the manifold. They should have a standard thread size, which is this part here. And that goes into the engine side of the intake manifold there. After the throttle plate. This funny plasticky thing is a flow restrictor, so you don't get gauge flutter. Essentially it just clamps down the flow. Probably can't focus on it with a camera, but you may have to adjust these. Hopefully if you have vacuum gauges, it comes with these, because otherwise the gauge will be all over the place. Pretty simple. Once you get that screw and those intake manifolds out, or intake insulators, whatever you want to call them, they just screw in, and you don't have to make them too tight, but tight enough so that they will hold vacuum. So hand tight should be fine. There's a little O-ring on one end of them, and there's a longer set for the inner 2 cylinders. Every kit is probably different, but I have to attach all 4 of these, and then you hook the tubes to the vacuum gauges onto the side, and we can fire up after that. Okay, so I'm about ready to fire up here. Got all of the gauges hooked up in order. If you're doing extended testing and you have one of those vacuum petcocks, you probably want to hook up a vacuum gauge. Anything above 1 inch of mercury should open that valve. It looks like I have about 5 inches of mercury actually, which is too much, but it should be fine. This thing will be ready to roll, so I just have to start it up and see what the gauges are reading. The idle is not good, as I had said before, so may have to do some adjustments to the flow restrictors here. So we got some flutter. Let's just see if I can dial that down right now. So you just turn the restrictor in, and it should drop a bit, as I'm doing right now. So that they'll read okay. A little flutter is fine. Looks like everything is in spec, which I expected. Let's get this one to stop fluttering. But we'll warm it up and see. Gonna start running off the choke. You're gonna hear, I don't know if you can hear over the audio, just how flat the idle is, and it's kind of stumbling a lot. So next step after this is to check the ignition, but I'm thinking these carbs are going to have to come out, which is a long and annoying process, but you'll see more of that as we go. We'll warm this up, see if the vacuum levels change at all, but it looks to be reasonably in spec, so I'm probably not even going to mess with it right now, as everything is going to have to come apart anyway, most likely, and then I'll have to resync everything after that. So further updates coming. Thanks for watching.